The conference room aboard Kalos Prime was unnervingly silent, save for the occasional hum of the station's gravity stabilizers. Lieutenant Mira Salas stood at the edge of the semicircular chamber, her military posture contrasting sharply with the relaxed disdain of the Xionar envoy seated opposite her. Overlord Zektos lounged in his chair, his scaled fingers idly tapping on the armrest. The flicker of his predatory smile hinted at satisfaction. "Humans," Zektos drawled, his voice a smooth blend of arrogance and condescension. "A fascinating species, to be sure, but far too reckless. A coalition freighter destroyed under your watch. How quaint." Myra's jaw clenched. "Reckless, or resourceful?" she countered. "The freighter's logs will show that the explosion wasn't an accident. The signature of the detonation points to a Xionar weapon." Gasps rippled across the assembly of alien delegates. Zektos leaned forward, his reptilian eyes gleaming. "Baseless accusations. Typical of a species barely crawling out of its primordial state." The tension was palpable. Mira could feel the weight of every gaze on her, some skeptical, others curious. She had spent years learning to temper her emotions in situations like this. Now she let her voice drop to a calm, measured tone. "The evidence speaks for itself. Your denial only underscores your fear of humanity." Before Zektos could respond, a council member interrupted. "Lieutenant Salas, do you have proof?" Mira nodded, her fingers deftly activating a holographic display. The room dimmed as a recording of the freighter's final moments played, a high-energy signature detonating from a cloaked vessel, unmistakably Xionar in design. "That's impossible," Zektos hissed, his composure cracking for a split second before he recovered. "This fabrication is a desperate attempt to mask your failures." The council erupted into heated debate, voices overlapping in a cacophony of arguments. Mira tuned it out, focusing instead on the chilling realization forming in her mind. This wasn't just an attack, it was a test. Humanity was being measured, prodded for weaknesses. As the council recessed, Mira turned to her closest ally, Calyx, a lanky alien with glowing eyes. "This isn't over," she said, her voice low but firm. "They're trying to provoke us." Calyx tilted his head. "And what will you do?" Myra's eyes narrowed. "Show them why that's a mistake." The alarms blared. The station shook. The game had begun. The lights flickered as Lieutenant Mira Salas darted through the dim corridors of Kalos Prime. Alarms wailed, echoing in time with her pounding footsteps. The Xionar weren't just testing humanity's resolve, they were actively sabotaging the Coalition's foundation. Every second wasted brought them closer to destabilizing the fragile alliance. Calyx's voice crackled through her comm unit. "Mira, the council chamber is in chaos. Zektos is calling for sanctions against humanity. You need undeniable proof." "I'm working on it," she whispered, pressing herself against a maintenance hatch as two Xionar guards passed by. Her heart raced, but her hands stayed steady as she accessed the hatch's manual override. The door slid open with a faint hiss, revealing a maintenance conduit leading to the Xionar embassy wing. "Careful," Calyx warned. "If they catch you." "They won't," she interrupted. "I'm not giving them the satisfaction." Sliding into the conduit, Mira moved with precision, her military training taking over. Every movement was calculated, every sound muffled. Her destination was the Xionar Central Server, the likely repository for the sabotage plans she knew existed. Minutes later, she emerged in a dimly lit chamber humming with energy. Rows of server cores pulsed with light. Mira pulled a device from her pack, connecting it to the nearest terminal. Lines of alien script scrolled across the holographic interface as her decryption software went to work. "Calyx, I'm in. Give me a status update. The Council's losing patience. Zektos is pushing a vote to suspend humanity's membership." Mira gritted her teeth. The Xionar wanted humans to react impulsively, to prove their accusations of recklessness. But she wasn't going to play their game. "Not on my watch." The decryption completed with a soft chime. Mira scanned the files, her eyes narrowing at the evidence, detailed schematics of the Coalition freighter's sabotage, and plans for future attacks targeting humanity's allies. Before she could transmit the data, a low growl sounded behind her. She turned to see Zektos himself, flanked by armed guards. His smile was predatory. "You've overplayed your hand, Lieutenant." Mira didn't flinch. "Funny. I was about to say the same to you." As Zektos stepped closer, her fingers hovered over a hidden trigger on her device. "Do you really want to find out what happens when you corner a human?" she asked, her voice ice-cold. The chamber plunged into darkness as her escape plan activated. Lieutenant Mira Salas awoke to the cold bite of restraints digging into her wrists. The dim, oppressive light of the Zynar embassy's holding cell cast jagged shadows across the walls. Across the room, Overlord Zektos loomed, his scaled face twisted in triumph. "You've proven entertaining, human," Zektos said, pacing slowly. "But games have consequences. Surrender your evidence, and I might consider sparing your people." Mira met his gaze with defiant calm. "You don't scare me, Zektos. Humans don't break. We adapt." He chuckled, a low, sinister sound. "Bravado won't save you. The Council will believe my narrative. Humanity will be branded reckless and irrelevant." Mira smiled faintly. "Funny thing about humans. We think 3 steps ahead." Her captor's smirk faltered just as a subtle beep emitted from her wrist. Hidden beneath her sleeve, a small device she'd activated before capture transmitted everything to Calyx. On the Coalition flagship, her ally worked furiously, broadcasting the incriminating files to every delegate on Kalos Prime. "You underestimate us," Mira continued, her tone sharpening. "That's your real mistake." The door to the cell hissed open, and Zektos turned, barking in order. The guards outside scrambled as chaos erupted across the station. The Coalition delegates, now armed with undeniable proof of Zynar sabotage, demanded immediate action. Zektos snarled, grabbing Myra's arm. "You'll regret this." "No," Mira shot back. "You will." With a swift twist, she disengaged her restraints, a hidden blade cutting cleanly through the material. Her military training kicked in as she disarmed Zektos in a single fluid motion, pinning him against the wall. "Your little test backfired," she said, her voice cold and steady. "Humanity's not just surviving this, we're earning the Coalition's trust." Before he could respond, the cell door blasted open. Calyx rushed in, flanked by Coalition security. "Mira, you've done it! The Council is siding with us. Zektos' plot is exposed." As the warlord was dragged away, Mira straightened, breathing deeply. The tension in her chest eased as she realized the tide had turned. She'd proven humanity's strength not through brute force, but through strategy and resolve. Later, addressing the Coalition, Mira ended her statement with a quiet warning. "To anyone considering provoking humanity, we don't seek conflict, but we will finish it. Think twice next time." The silence that followed was filled with newfound respect. Humanity had earned its place, and its reputation. The Coalition chamber was hushed, an atmosphere of reverence settling over the gathered delegates. Lieutenant Mira Salas stood at the center of the room, her uniform crisp despite the bruises peeking out from beneath her collar. The weight of recent events pressed against her shoulders, but she stood tall, her gaze unwavering. The Council leader, a regal being with crystalline features, leaned forward. "Lieutenant Salas, the evidence you provided is indisputable. The Zynar have been stripped of their diplomatic privileges. Humanity's resilience is remarkable." "Resilience is survival," Mira replied, her voice steady but carrying an edge of exhaustion. "And survival is something humans have perfected. But this wasn't just about survival, it was about trust." A murmur rippled through the chamber. The delegates, many of whom had doubted humanity's place in the Coalition, exchanged glances. Mira seized the moment. "We didn't come here to conquer or to challenge your authority," she continued. "We came to learn, to share, and to build a future where all species thrive. The Zynar sought to provoke us into proving otherwise. Instead, we showed them, and you, what humanity stands for." Calyx, standing among the delegates, nodded with a faint smile. He had seen firsthand the determination that defined his human friend. The coalition leader gestured, signaling a unanimous decision. Humanity's position in the coalition is secure, the leader declared. And let it be known that provoking your kind is unwise. As the chamber erupted in applause, Mira exhaled slowly. The battle was over, but the lessons learned would resonate far beyond the walls of this station. Later, on a quiet observation deck overlooking the swirling colors of a nearby nebula, Calyx joined her. You did it, he said, his glowing eyes warm. The coalition respects humanity now. Mira shook her head. Respect is earned every day. This was just the beginning. Zektos' plot might have failed, but there are others like him. We'll have to stay vigilant. Calyx studied her, then offered a faint chuckle. You humans never stop, do you? No, Mira said with a faint smile. We don't. And that's what makes us dangerous to anyone who tries to break us. The nebula cast shimmering light across the station as Mira turned to leave, a quiet determination etched in her expression. Humanity's journey was far from over, but for the first time, it felt like the galaxy was ready to believe in them.